Well, hey everybody. Do we have some good shit to talk about today? My name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge. Welcome to my November 2021 wrap up. Pardon my little red nose. Apparently getting a little bit sick, so that's fun. But I'm very, very excited for this. Apparently in the last 2 weeks, just all the best books decided to come out and just flood me with serotonin and happiness. Plus, as some of you know, my sister had her baby. I had a wonderful vacation. Bees came out. We will definitely talk about bees later on. It was just the best. The only thing that December can do better is the fact that I get to reread all my favorite books. Those of which are some of these. But yeah, this is exciting. This is very exciting. Let us go ahead and dive into this because I have a lot of gushing to do. It was very hard to narrow down my favorite books, so we actually have 8 of them to talk about, so I don't want to take too long going through the other stuff. So here we go. I read 55 books. One of those was a DNF, but I read 55 books this month, which, yeah, that is a little bit closer to what my average has been lately. October was just like a boost through the roof. I was able to read quite a few. November, I knew I would read less, particularly because there was a whole week. Well, it was 3 days worth, but it was a whole week where I basically only read like a couple of books because it was the holiday, which was totally fine. Like, I don't have anxiety about that or anything because it was totally amazing to get to be with this little cutie. Oop, there she is real fast. But anyway, I'm getting distracted. I read 55 books, which was 17,960 pages, which averaged out to 641 pages per day. So still doing good. The formats that I read this in was 15 print books, 23 ebooks, 27 audiobooks, and 12 e-arcs. Yes, I had a lot of arcs this month. As I said, everything decided to come out in the last 2 weeks, which was stressful because a few books had gotten pushed into this month that were supposed to be in a different month. So I was trying to plan things out right so that nothing else was coming out when Outlander came out. And then there was a bunch of books that came out when Outlander came out. So it was just a bit stressful, okay? Sorry, I just wanted some of this cherry Pepsi. There we go. All right. Those books were in the subgenres of 12 dark romances, 25 contemporary, 10 historical, 1 fantasy, and 6 paranormal. So I had a very concentrated reading compared to October where I was in like 8 different genres. This time we were pretty centered around contemporary and dark romance. And that's because I really was binging a couple of really just plowing through the backlist of some authors lately. So the ratings of these books were, I had 1 DNF, as I said. I had 7 6 stars because I did start my rereads. So quite a few of those were rereads that were 6 stars, but I don't care. 14 5 stars, 5 4.5 stars, 23 4 stars, and 5 3.5 stars, which this is not bad at all. I had no 3s. I don't know how that happened. Like, that's never happened that I had to triple check when I was doing my stats. I was like, I didn't have anything below a 3.5. So again, like, less books were read, but the content was high. It was very high. And without further ado, we're going to talk about my favorite books a little bit. Okay. Let's just do it. I'm ready for it. So Savage Hearts by J.T. Geissinger. I gave this puppy 6 stars, which means I think we have my first series ever where so far the whole series has been 6 stars and loving it. So this one is about Malik Antonov, who gets sent to kill Daddy Declan. Okay, he gets sent. Well, it's more so that he gets pointed in his direction because Malik, he has some beef with Declan, as do a lot of the different mafias. Because if you've read Carnal Urges, Declan goes on a bit of a killing spree in that book. And I won't spoil why or what's going on, but he does. And so there's a lot of people angry. And good old Cage from book 1 can't directly target Declan, or he will make his sweetheart very upset. He will make his queen displeased with him. But that doesn't mean that he won't try to go around to skirt the edges of that and maybe point someone who already has a grudge that he could say it makes perfect sense if he's able to take out good old Daddy Declan for us. All right? Okay? So then we have sweet Riley, who is Sloane's younger sister. And they've been estranged for the past few years. And Sloane decides she wants to reach out to her sister. So in the beginning of this book, she reaches out to her sister and says, hey, girlfriend, little sis, my fantabulous maybe fiance is going to send the jet for you and bring you to visit us. And on our private island, basically. It's not their private island, but it basically is. And I want you to meet him. And she's like, oh, okay, if you insist. And so good old Malik is spying on them, trying to get the feel of it, and he sees this girl who absolutely does not fit in with Sloane and Declan at all. And he wants to rescue her from Sloane and Declan. And needless to say, things go awry. This book had so many great things. This still has the age gap. This still has the worshipful hero who's almost dumbfounded by the fact that he would lay everything down for his woman, because it's not that he doesn't have that in him. It's that it just hits him out of nowhere. And he's, they're just dumbfounded by the fact that this little whip of a girl has them all tied up in knots, And I love that shit. I love it so much. This has kidnapping, forced proximity, the age gap, a little bit of kinky kink, just some fun stuff. This also is like their cabin in the woods, basically. There is an animal attack at one point. It was fantastic. I don't know what else to say. The Queens and Monsters series is one of my favorite series of the year. It's fucking fantastic. I've loved every entry into this series, and I cannot wait for more. There is going to be at least a 4th book. It is very well set up at the end of this. It's going to be called Brutal Vows, I believe. Gotta love mafia titles. They have savage or brutal or ruthless in all the titles, right? So, yeah, this was fantastic. I loved it so much. So good. Then I really loved Her Soul for Revenge by Harley LaRue. I read this way at the beginning of the month and I almost forgot about it, but I loved this. I loved this book more than I loved the first one. This is one of those books where you think you love the first book, and then you read the next book and you're like, wow, that author really improved. And I don't want to think less of Her Soul to Take because Her Soul to Keep. Is it Her Soul to Keep? Her Soul to Take. Because I enjoyed that. But as is with me, I get very excited about a book when I read it and I get hyped up. And then some of my friends read it and they point out the things that aren't that great. And I'm like, oh, yeah, that happened. But I still really liked it. It was really fun. And then I read this book and I then agreed with the things that they pointed out. But I'm not going to retroactively lower my rating because that serves no purpose to me. It was a 5-star read when I read it. That's what it is. If I ever were to reread it, then that would happen. But this one involves a heroine who, when she is a teenager, she is a survivor of a ritual killing. Obviously it wasn't a killing because she lived, but they tried to sacrifice her and she ended up living. But because she escaped her death, there are demons that get sent after her because she is owed to that god, to that deity that she was to be sacrificed to. And she escaped. And so they're going to catch her. And then we have our hero in this one who is a demon and he decides that he wants her. So he basically tells every other demon that they are not going to be collecting a bounty on her. And then he tells her that when you get tired of running, you'll come and make your deal with me, a deal for your soul, and I'll help you get your revenge. So that's why it's called Her Soul for Revenge. And this heroine makes a mighty good stab at it. I will tell you that. She is ferocious. She is fierce. She's amazing. And this book has a lot of the same fun, kinky elements that the first one had. However, I think the biggest difference for me, and again, this is something that people pointed out to me about the first one later, this hero is, the hero of the first one is almost too much of an asshole. Like, he doesn't have really any redeeming qualities. He's just a sexy demon and they have sexy times, so we just like it. And like, I am okay with that. I like the snark level of it. Like, I'm okay with it. But in this one, you really see a hero who is more like, he is those things too. He's ruthless, but he also has some very tender places and he's willing to show them to our heroine. And it really is a mutual claiming in this one where he's claiming her, but she also claims him. And there is some power dynamics that maybe switch, if you get what I mean. And I'm a big fan of whenever that happens, and when in sexual play, when we can switch that back and forth, when there's enough trust between the two of you, that even that alpha, who is very much an alpha, doesn't mind submitting in a sexual sense to his partner because he knows that it will fulfill her in a way that she isn't expecting. So I love this. I can't wait for more. And I'm very interested in what Harley LaRue does, because these books are a wild ride. There were parts in this book that had me cry. There were parts where I was laughing. And then there are plenty of parts where I was like, whew, bring me the ice, please. Thank you. So, love that. Then another new release that I loved was Filthy Secret by Serena Akeroyd. Whew. My friends, if you've read The Dawn and the Lady, which you don't have to read this, you know, you don't have to, those books in the reading order are optional. But if you did read them, you know that there are some bumpy things in the road for Finn and Ayla, some things that are going to be tough. So this is book 6 in the Filthy Fecker series. This book, you know, this one it says it's about Aoife O'Grady, where Filthy it says it's about Finn O'Grady. But he is an adopted member of the, wow, I just forgot their name. Of the O'Donnellys? Sorry. Wow. And gosh, this is heartbreaking. There's so little that I can say about this book that's not like spoilery, because this one isn't one that can be a standalone, you know. She said, of course, the author will say this, like the other books in the series, you could read them as a standalone. I personally don't believe that. I don't feel like you can. They build upon each other, but the author says you can, so you should listen to her. But this one you can't. Like, this one you have to have read Filthy, and you really should have read all the other ones before you read this, because there are secrets, obviously, that are out there. And it's not just the one secret. There is many. This book also has many POVs, like some of her other books do, but this one is different from others where there is only POVs of the Feckers in here. That we get to revisit situations, we get to cry together, and to laugh together, and to swoon together, and then cry some more. So this book gave me a lot of feelings. I'm very intrigued to see where we go with Filthy King next year. And I trust Serena to wrap this story up in a way that will be satisfactory, but boy, am I interested to see what that will be, because this is intense, y'all. Like, this is intense. Wow. Then we should mention Nightwolf by Karina Halle. This was another new release. This one you could read as a standalone, but if you've read The Dark Eyes Duet, you should read this after it. You know, like, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to read this and then go read The Dark Eyes Duet. Like, you should, if you want to read them, you should read them all. But you could read this as a standalone if you don't want to read the others too. But this is a vampire romance. It's a vampire and a human. It's also friends to lovers, which I've said quite a few times by this point, but I haven't read many vampire books that are friends to lovers. For that matter, I haven't read a lot of paranormals that are friends to lovers. Usually there's, you know, there's the fated mate, or there's like the enemies usually going on. And in this one, Amethyst, she actually works at the Dark Eyes Club, where our hero, Wolf, is a vampire there. And he's kind of the second in command to Salon, who Salon is a hero from the first one. And they have kind of been dancing around each other for a while. in this world, it is not very easy at all for a human to turn into a vampire. In fact, when they become a vampire, they're usually stark raving mad for 2 centuries before they settle down. So this isn't as easy as, even Bella and Edward even had it easier, because they're just supposed to be a year before the person can settle down. Like, it's supposed to be very, very difficult. And also sometimes the women die if it happens. Not just women, but like either sex if they get turned, but especially the women. It's not supposed to be very possible. But there's also some very emotional things that happen in here with Amethyst's mother. There are trigger warnings for loss of a parent. So, I'm just going to say it. It's kind of a spoiler, but it's also one you should know. There were things in this book that exactly reminded me of things that happened with my aunt almost 7 years ago now. But I felt like I was right back in the room listening to conversations that the doctors were having. And I know I'm not the only one who's had that. The author, she shares in her author's note that some of this is things she felt with her father. She lost both her brother and her father this year due to different reasons, but it was very shocking and painful losses, and she didn't know if she'd be able to write again. And she found that writing this book, that each chapter she wrote was like a victory for her. So don't get me wrong, this book is not all a sad fest. I just want to be clear that there's that very emotional element in it, and you can just feel the author like working her way through those emotions herself. So if you have lost someone recently or you are haunted by that loss, I just want to warn you about it. However, the way that the grief is processed and how we go through it in here was so beautiful. Oh my gosh. And then on the side of it, still this romance between these 2 friends and the steam level and the sexiness between them is all there as well. But just want to lay that out. That it's there. So loved it. And then before I talk about my 2 very favorite reads of the month, I want to mention one that actually comes out, I think on Friday. I think it comes out on Friday. I'm not sure. I've seen a couple different dates. But I applied for this one that it was a novella, and I didn't realize it was part of it's part of a collaboration series. I just asked for it because it's by an author that I really like. And so this is called Wrong by Adelaide Forrest. And I wanted to share this because I haven't shared a book quite this taboo in a while, and it felt good to read a book this naughty. I'm just being real. Like, I haven't read one quite this one that makes you feel it, right? Because at this point, I read a lot of books that are taboo, and I'm like, oh well, that's not that taboo. And then I read this one, and I was like, this one has non-consensual in it. There's rape in this one by the hero to the heroine. Let me explain the setup, because he isn't knowingly raping someone in the beginning. So anyway, let me explain. So this is Wrong. I think there's a club that it's supposed to be based around. That's what the series is about, but it literally doesn't matter. But we have our hero who has a best friend who has a daughter, okay? And the daughter's name is Everly. Of course, her name is Everly, because why not? Just do that. And she has recently turned 18. She's in college, and she's had a crush on her dad's best friend, who she does call uncle. There's no blood relations, but I'm going to call him uncle because she does. Her uncle Landon is her dad's best friend. They've been business partners for years. They've worked together for years. They came up from nothing together, and now they're billionaires. And he also has noticed his niece. Again, his friend's daughter, but we're calling her that because that's what he calls her in his head, so we're calling her that. And he's felt pretty gross about that. But also, he's kind of just waiting until she's maybe older than 18 and then make a move. He's kind of biding his time sort of thing. So he also enjoys non-consensual play, consensual, non-consensual play. And there's this club, the club I mentioned before, where you can do that, where both parties will agree ahead of time. And yes, you would still have a safe word for it and everything, but you would agree ahead of time so that you can set it up to be like a kidnapping scenario or whatever, so that it feels really real, rape fantasy. I've read those before, but things go quite wrong with this. So he has found he has been like set up with a woman that he is going to kidnap and and rape, who has like consented to this ahead of time. And he's found this woman who looks a lot like Everly. At least that's what the description says. Okay. And the place that he's supposed to meet her just happens to be the place where Everly is having a study date with a friend. So he shows up there and the other woman isn't there yet. And he thinks, oh my God, Everly really is as kinky as me. Like, we're a perfect match. So when she goes outside to make a phone call, he literally kidnaps her and puts her in the back of his car. Now, he thinks this is a consensually signed up for situation, okay? And that she is going to be pretending to not want it because of the contract that he signed with someone. And she doesn't know what the safe word is because she isn't the one who signed it. So she's not able to tap out of this situation because it's not a situation she consented to be in. So from her POV of this, she is being kidnapped. And then when they arrive at the club, because they're using a room at the club, and he like takes her out, she realizes it's her uncle Landon and he's going to rape her. And she's also very turned on by this because she is attracted to him, but she didn't know that her uncle was into this like kinky shit, and he rapes her. But he thinks it's consensual. I just want to put that out there. Like, it's not the thing. But anyway, so this is a dark romance, obviously. Like, you're getting that from the vibe. This is a very taboo situation. And he also has taken her virginity. And now he gets a phone call. He gets text messages from the woman he's actually supposed to pick up. And now he realizes that all of her screams for him to stop and all of that was real. And that he just raped his best friend's daughter. Why is this one of my favorite reads this month? I'll tell you. Because our hero then is like, well, I've already fucked her now. She's mine. So that's where we go with this. And I know I sound like a lunatic. It physically feels weird to say this out loud, but I like this kinky shit, and she is like partially into it. And it also has, so there's also a trigger warning for forced pregnancy in this. There's a hero who tampers with contraception because he wants to tie her to her in any way he can. If you've read other books by Adelaide Forrest, none of these things are a surprise to you because literally all the heroes in her books do that. So, but I'm not forcing you to read this. Do not read this. If you are uncomfortable by anything that I have said, don't read it. But I really like this book, and I gave it 5 stars, and it comes out on Friday. And I don't know what it was. It was just, it worked for me. And again, I haven't read one like that in a while, so what can you do? All right, my 2 favorite books of the month. So we got to talk about There Is No Devil, which came out today, the day I'm filming this. Yesterday, if you're watching this tomorrow when I put this video up. This is the completion of the Sinners duet. Man, this duet is bringing up so many feelings for so many people. And like, I have to be, like, this is a 5-star read for me. Like, I'm just saying, like, these books are 5-star books for me. But I have to be a little transparent that the way that these books are connecting with some people is not the same way that they're connecting with me. Again, that does not mean that I see them as less than a 5-star read. That doesn't mean even that I'm BSing because I love Sophie Lark so much. I have given harsh criticism to Sophie Lark before. It's just been a long time because I like what she writes. I was still in awe of how unique and how intricate the emotions were in this, and how brave Sophie was to just be ripping parts of herself off to put into this story. Some of the emotional levels that other people are reaching with this book, they're not hitting me that way because I don't have that same kind of past as some people do. There are some serious things that have caused Cole to become a psychopath with almost no soul, and for Mara to be the woman that she is. Like, there is some serious trauma that they've been through in their lives. And not even on that full level. Like, I just listened to one of my dear friends, like, cry to me for many, many minutes about how she felt so seen by Sophie when there are some things that Mara is going through and that are put on this page. And Sophie herself says in her author's note and in other posts she's done that this is the most personal book for her, and you can feel it so much. This book starts just a little ways after the first one has ended. Mara has been moved into Cole's house, and I don't want to tell you like fully what's going on with that, because if a lot of people are waiting to read this one till we've read the first one, but there is so much more evolving still for them to do. And now we're in this kind of like forced proximity as well, and just the things that they do and the things that they share with each other, the way that they strip each other down, and the way that they support each other, is very powerful. It really, really is. And so again, I just want to be honest that it doesn't hit me the same way that it's hitting some of my friends. I highly recommend you check out some reviews from some other people who've read it, because I think they connect with this story on another level that I can't even articulate. Because to me, these books were just, they were amazing, and I'm fascinated. But I'm left with a lot of questions about, like, this definitely has an HEA, that's not what I mean. I'm just left with so many questions about who they are in the future and, like, what's happening, and then, like, all those things. And, like, a lot of people who read it, they're just like, I got it. And I'm like, oh, I'm glad. Because I enjoyed these, but I don't think that I get it on the same level as people who connect with it the way that they do. And also, I've said this, like, Cole is not my type of hero. Like, he's not my man at all. Like, I will happily give this man to you. I love Mara. I absolutely love her. Like, Dean is more my man. Raylan is my man. Like, those are my Sophie Lark men. Like, as you know, they're in my favorites. But I know that this story just works on a different level for people than it does for me. And I think that that's so amazing, because, again, I read these and I enjoy them. I love a serial killer romance. I love a fierce heroine. I love someone who's constantly challenging their partner. And I don't think things will ever be boring in this household. I don't think that will happen. And yeah. So it's still in some of my favorite books this month. Again, I wanted to be honest that this is a 5-star read, and still I know there's more layers to this that I don't understand. And it's definitely a duet too that I think of, like, if I reread this in 5-10 years from now, that there would be even more layers that I would get from it. So fantastic. I mean, Sophie she's fucking amazing, and she's definitely going to be back on the channel soon. We were talking the other day that I would love to have her in the new year to discuss what 2022 is going to look like for her, and I will definitely have questions to ask about these. Okay, so we got to talk about the elephant in the room, and that's the biggest book I've read this year. Go tell the bees that I'm gone. Now, I've already done a reading blog that had slight spoilers in it because I am reacting to some certain things. That went up a couple days ago, so you can watch that. And I will have a full book chat with spoilers and things to talk about, which should go up this Saturday. I just wanted to give people, at least a full 10 days to read this, even though it'll be out there forever. And I mean, that's usually what happens with my book chats, is they are not heavy loaded on the front end, because with a book this size, people come back to it. Like, I have people who come across my book chats years later. That's just how it goes, right? But anyway, I've been looking forward to this book for 5 years. I know I'm not the only one. As I've said, there's people who've been reading these books for 35 years, since they've been going. I watched Diana's interview that she had for like a night with Outlander or whatever. It was done by her publisher. And she said she's been writing these books for 36 years. And she turns 70 in the beginning of next year, which is amazing. Yeah, it's fantastic. I pray for that woman's health almost more than I pray for my own mother's health. I mean, I'm kidding. Of course I pray for my mother's health, but I also pray for Diana Gabaldon's health because, woman, I needed to stay healthy a long time. Anyway, this book, so of course I mean, it's so strange to be so deep into a series too, because there are spoilers you don't want to reveal, but there's also just so much comfort that I get from this series. I mean, all of my favorite things are present in this book. I mean, this is one of the lowest steam books that I'll read all year, and as I've said, this is my favorite romantic couple that I've ever experienced. Like, the deep, abiding, beautiful love is fantastic in this series. It's so amazing, and yeah, I just adore it. There definitely are some bumps in the road, as there always is. There is a death or two, and I was just so, it was so heartbreaking and beautiful at the same time, because this is probably one of the first, I mean, I felt it at different points in the series, but this is one of the first books where I actually felt like, wow, Jamie and Claire are old. And gosh, I could cry, because in the same way that I feel about book characters, I feel about people. And I'm starting to see like my parents get older. And I've said this to some of my friends. I don't know if I've said it to you guys, but my father reminds me of Jamie so much, like so much. I mean, obviously Jamie's a more perfect version, and I don't, anyway, the point being, like, there's so many aspects of who he is and how he looks at things, and how loving he is, and how accident prone. Like, seriously, my dad, he hurts himself all the time. Like, just yesterday, he, like, sliced his hand open and had to get 8 stitches. And I'm just like, Dad, will you chill out, okay? He broke his leg a couple years back. He has such a fucked up back from all this times. Like, there's a scene in a previous book where, like, Jamie has a back spasm and he cannot move for, like, a week because his back spasms out. That's happened to my dad before. So, anyway, I'm going off the rails for my monthly favorites, but the point being, like, these books are so personal to me, and they're so beautiful to me, and I understand if people don't ever want to try them. Like, I get it. I get that that is a chunky bunch of books, okay? I get it. I hear it just as often as I hear people say, oh my God, I tried these books because you wouldn't stop recommending them, and they're the best thing that's ever happened to me. So I hear both sides, and I respect both sides, and there was just something so joyful about getting to spend 3 days reading this book, also surrounded by my family, so that was fun too, because I read this while I was home, and just to have new words to read, like, oh my God. It's one of the best things about being a reader. Look at my nose just light up like Rudolph as soon as the tears come. Fucking great. Is when there's an author that you love this much, and you get given a new book by them. And I feel that way about quite a few authors. Like, it is not just Diana Gabaldon who does this for me. Like, it is other authors. But when I get a new book put in my hands and there's new words to read about characters that I love so much, it's like water in the desert, you know? It's that hug from a family member you haven't seen in a really long time. And wow, I didn't expect to cry at the end of my monthly wrap-up. Glad I took my picture at the beginning. But anyway, so when I say that this is my favorite book of the year, nobody is surprised by that. I won't even technically put it in my favorites of the year like list, because it just beats everything. It just beats everything. Because I'm so deeply in love with these characters and this world, and with their imperfections, and with their connections, and the way that they're just living. I love it so much. And when I finally read the last words of this series, I think that it will be the depression to end all book depressions. Like, oof. It's gonna be hard. So, wow. That was like a weird place to end, but I love this book so much. Oh my god. It's so amazing. So, anyway, thank you to everyone who watched this, and it means a lot to me. And yeah. Yep. That's it. That's what I got. So I'll see you in the next video, which will be my deep dive of that, by the way. And yeah, I hope you have a great day. Bye.